Thanks, Nicole. I don't deserve many of those kind words. And I'm very grateful to see all of you and for everyone who's put so much work into tonight, to the River Rock folks and the women from Westside and the worship team. It's a lot that's gone into this, because I'll tell you, I would not have agreed to do this if I knew that there were this many people here tonight. Public speaking is in my top 3 of things I said I would never do. I said I would never teach, and I've taught. After university, I had no money, and my old high school called me and asked if I'd substitute teach. So not only did I teach, I was like at the bottom of the pool where, the kids are trying to pull one on you and they think you don't know anything. So that was my teaching experience. And I also said I would never get involved in politics, and that was something as well that fell in my lap. But spent many years in the bare-knuckle politics of municipal politics in Surrey and in here in BC and even federally. And that has been an adventure, too, that has led to many, many good stories and many, many dear friendships that I don't think I would have, I know I wouldn't have had otherwise. And then my third never was public speaking. And you'd think I would learn. Never say never, because before, when you're young, you sort of say, I will never. But then, I don't know, it's around 30 or so, you start saying, never say never. You realize you don't actually know as much as you think you do. Anyway, although there are many, many friendly faces among you, most of you don't know me, but I would gather that most of you know that I am dying. 6 weeks ago, I was given the news that my liver and bones are full of cancer. Just this past week, I found out that it spread to my skull. And today, even, I went for an MRI to see if it's gone to my brain. Estimates vary, but barring a miracle, it is likely that I will not be here in 6 to 18 weeks, or 42 to 126 days. Sounds like a long time when you're waiting for Christmas or something that's on back order. But when it's the time that you have left to cuddle with your kids or spend with your husband, it's terribly, terribly short. Cancer's been a big part of my life for several years now. I was diagnosed with breast cancer nearly 5 years ago. Quinn, our son, was just 2 years old, and Kate, our daughter, was only 7 months. I was just weaning her when I found the lump. I always wondered how you'd know when you found a lump, but when I found it, I knew. It was hard as a rock, and I knew it shouldn't be there. Because of my age, I was 32, things moved quite quickly. I had a partial mastectomy within 2 weeks, and then began 6 rounds of nasty chemo. I reacted violently to chemo and had to be hospitalized for my treatments. Right after finishing chemo, I had more surgery, this time a bilateral mastectomy, removal of both breasts, and reconstruction. A few months later, I discovered that my cancer was genetic, and so I opted to have my ovaries removed in an effort to prevent the cancer from returning or new cancers from developing. I have taken medication every day for the past 4 years to reduce my chances of recurrence. In short, I did everything I could, and more than even my doctors recommended, to avoid the situation I find myself in today. And along with breast cancer came the color pink. I've never really liked the color pink. I was a tomboy growing up, very active in sports, and was never very girly. My poor mother would beg me to wear a belt to show my waist because my daily uniform was sweats. So anything pink was really not me. And then I got cancer. And as I'm sure you're all aware, the breast cancer prevention marketers have completely absconded the color pink. Oh, the irony. So on top of my long-time aversion to pink, I find myself suddenly immersed in a world of pink. Pink ribbons, pink thermoses, pink scarves, pink keychains. And there's nothing wrong with all this pink. It serves a wonderful purpose to raise awareness and funds to eradicate the very disease that I am dying of. But for some reason, it always rubbed me the wrong way. And I couldn't figure out why. It wasn't just that I wasn't a fan of the color, because as my closest friends will tell you, I'd begun to freak them out on occasion by wearing something not pink, but coral or fuchsia. What bothered me was the fact that all of a sudden, people were suddenly defining me by my cancer. I was a cancer survivor, and I am. Well, I was. But cancer does not define me. Neither does being a wife or a mother. All of these things are a part of who I am, but they do not define me. What defines me is my relationship with Jesus. And that is why I'm here tonight. To tell you why Jesus defines me, to tell you what I have learned about what is really important in life, and to share the four things, the four principles that have helped shape me into who I am today and give me hope. Over the years, these four truths have established a foundation of faith that is unshakable, even in the face of death. I have shed many tears over the past week as I grieve the reality of my death, and I will no doubt shed many more. But in the midst of my sadness, there is a deep and abiding peace and hope. A peace and hope that I would like for you to have too. So here are the things I have learned, the important truths I want my kids to know. Know God, know yourself, know the gospel, and know your purpose. In Romans 12, verse 2, it says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect," which is to say, we are changed by what we know. Before we go any further, I want to establish something as a starting point. I am going to quote from the Bible, and I am doing that because I believe it to be the very words of God. Some of you may not agree or hold an opinion that the Bible is a bunch of fairy tales or irrelevant history. Some of you are Christians who wonder if there is truth to these things, or who may approach the time you spend reading the Bible, what God has written for you, as something you should do rather than something you get to do. There are plenty of books out there that give better reasoning for the authenticity of the Bible than I could ever give, and I would be happy to recommend some to you. But tonight, we will operate from the assumption that the Bible contains God's words for you and for me. Because as charming as I'd like to think I am, what I say means very little. But what God says means everything. So here we go. The first thing I've learned. Know God. Now, I don't even like to admit this, but I'm a bit of a celebrity hound. I have to admit. When Neil and I were first married, we lived downtown Vancouver, and many evenings we would go for walks on Robson Street. Of course, of all the places in Vancouver where one is likely to see celebrities, it's Robson Street. Neil likes to tease me because I often think I see someone famous only to find out that it's not. Case in point, there was this one man that I would see often, and he was the spitting image of Tom Selleck. Remember him? Magnum PI? I did actually realize that there was a fair number of people in this crowd that might not know who Tom Selleck was. Anyway, this guy looked exactly like him. I mean, it was crazy how much he looked like Tom Selleck, and I would insist to Neil that it was Tom Selleck.